Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Oba's Trending Gist. Today, we are diving into a very hot topic that has everyone talking. Nobel Laureate Professor Wole Soyinka recently sat down with an interview with Nobel Nigeria, and his comments about the 2027 presidential election, specifically regarding Peter Obi, have stirred up quite the conversation. We'll watch the clip, break down what he said, and I will give you my critical take on it all. Let's get straight into it, so sit back and take a watch.
In my own opinion, very abusive towards you. And so for me, that revealed for me the fact that our education standards are so poor that rather than attacking the points that you raised, they attacked your person. And so for me, my question would be, how did you feel looking at that, and how would you explain the Obidient movement, or how can we come back from that in my
Well, again, it has to do with education. I must tell you, by the way, that I didn't read all this, but of course, certain links were sent to me, especially when factual errors would be the wrong, when facts were being manufactured, quote unquote, being manufactured. I read these things, I was disgusted. There's no other word for it. I really was disgusted. And I know that it was, I realized, of course, it was orchestrated. Internet has become so promiscuous. And even VNAR, I know that there's a relay, I use the word relay mechanism, which is triggered into action by those who control what we call the trolls of the internet. And so my disgust and contempt, I just went about my business, because anybody on this earth who thinks he can stop me telling the truth as I see it needs to go and have his or her head examined. It's as elementary as that. But it was depressing to see those who wanted to be political leaders encouraging that kind of action, that kind of attitude in the youth. And my mind went to the expression, they don't know what they're doing. Those who sow the wind will reap the whirlwind. These very trolls, these foot soldiers whom they think, these myrmidons of hate, whom they've trained in that aspect. One of these days, they'll be astonished, they will turn on them and teach them a lesson. And so my attitude was very blasé, to remain blasé about the whole thing. But it is, for me, a sad phenomenon, especially for those who want to lead a multi-textured society, different religions, different ethnic groups, different worldviews, who actually want to preside over such group, as one. It means that they've already declared themselves incompetent to lead such an entity. That's all.
What do you think of the person, Mr. Peter Obi? What do you think? How do you think he can make it right? What mistakes do you think he made, and do you think he has a chance in the next election?
Well, I hope for the sake of the nation that he doesn't express interest in the next election. Because for me as a leader, if there was any proof that he was unfit to lead that country, it's in the conduct which he encouraged among his followers. I know for a fact, and I can give you an instance which proves that he was in control of those forces.
Can you please, what's the instance, Prof?
Well, simply because when he first came to visit me, he did come at one time.
That's correct.
Somebody brought him. And I watched him. I watched his action, his body language. It seemed to be very conciliatory. But I remember the moment when he took out his computers, something like that. And after he made a statement like, "Oh, don't worry, everything, will be taken care of. You don't have anything to worry about these people." He was talking about the quote-unquote obedience. I remember he took out his computer, his phone, and he tapped, a message, there. And he shot me. I was watching him very closely. I didn't see a thing. And after that, everything seemed to be, to be nice and cozy.
So he really did, yes.
And I saw and I read his statement about that meeting afterwards. The statement was a contrast to what actually happened, what we discussed. And I mentioned it in my response when somebody said, I can't remember what he wrote, but anyway, it was a misrepresentation of what happened. And I made sure that I put a statement out saying, no, I'm sorry, this is not what was said. This language never came into it. On the contrary, this is what happened. And so when I meet somebody who is incapable, even at a meeting which is supposed to be conciliatory, of being completely honest, I look at that person, and so I smiled myself. I just left it. And of course, when I got to Stellenbosch and I was asked a question about this, I repeated exactly what had given, quote unquote, given offense. Only this time I made it even stronger. I said, Peter Obi did not win this thing. So I led them again to go on the rampage, that's there, and I went about my own business. So and there were witnesses at the meeting. You don't take my word for it. There were witnesses at the meeting.
Yes.
He came with two people, and one person was, and I said, ask them. The statement he put out was not a reflection of what went on at that meeting, which I very reluctantly conceded. It was pressure for me not even to allow him into my house. I said, why not? Let him come and say what he wants to say. I want to see him face to face, study him, leave him an opening, and then act on them. So that's it. I wasn't going to go into this, but since I see that you're curious, I have to tell you.
No, I'm sorry. I just find it, thank you for doing that, Prof. I just find it a bit sad because for someone of your stature, like I said earlier, you won the Nobel Prize for Literature. You're someone that's millions of, not just Nigerians, but millions of people all over the world, mostly young people like myself, we hold in high regard. And I was so disappointed when the backlash came because for me, I see you as someone who is intellectually honest. You've been in the struggle. You were an activist when you were a student. You've gone to jail before. You've been in solitary confinement, and everything you've done for Nigeria and for the world at large. To find young people like myself degrade your person, I didn't know what to say, but I was like, this is not just how to do it.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. Let's break down the key points from that powerful interaction. First, Professor Wole addresses the intense backlash he received, particularly from the Obidient movement, after he made previous comments about the political situation. The interviewer points out that rather than engaging with substance of Soyinka's argument, many resort to personal attacks. In response, Soyinka attributes this to a breakdown in education and the organized nature of online trolls. He uses strong words, saying he was disgusted by the manufacturing of facts and the sheer contempt displayed. He describes the internet as promiscuous and venal, controlled by forces that weaponizes hate. He makes a powerful statement: those who sow the wind will reap the whirlwind, suggesting that the political leader who encouraged this behavior will eventually be consumed by it. Now, onto the most talked about parts of the interview. His thoughts on Peter Obi. The interview asks directly what Soyinka thinks of Mr. Peter Obi and his chances in the next election. Soyinka is unequivocal. He states, for the sake of the nation, he hopes Peter Obi does not run for the president in 2027. His reasoning: he believes that Peter Obi, as a leader, proved himself unfit to lead that country by the conduct he encouraged among his followers. He reveals a very interesting detail about a private meeting he had with Peter Obi. He says that while Obi appeared conciliatory during the discussion, the public statement Peter Obi released afterward was complete contrast and a misrepresentation of what actually happened in their meeting. Soyinka saw this as a sign of dishonesty, confirming his belief that Obi was in full control of the narrative and the aggressive tactics used by his supporters. This experience solidified his view that Obi is not fit for leadership. Essentially, Professor Soyinka's argument is that a leader who cannot control, or worse, who encourages a toxic and intolerant following is not suitable to govern a complex, multi-ethnic and multi-religious nation like Nigeria. He declares that by doing so, such leaders have already declared themselves incompetent to lead. So, what's my take on all this? Professor Wole Soyinka is a global icon and a voice that has fought for democracy in Nigeria for decades. When he speaks, it's wise to listen, even if you don't agree. His criticism isn't just about Peter Obi as a person, but about a brand of politics that he sees as dangerous for Nigeria. The point he makes about intellectual dishonesty is critical. If a leader cannot be truthful about a private meeting, can they be trusted with the affairs of the nation? Soyinka is highlighting a fundamental issue of character and integrity which is paramount in leadership. Furthermore, his warning about weaponizing the youth and online trolls is a serious one. We've seen how this display out in other countries, leading to a deeper division and even violence. The idea of sowing the wind and reaping the whirlwind is a historical lesson we cannot afford to ignore. A movement built on aggression and intolerance, even if for a seemingly good cause, can easily spiral out of control and turn on its creator. However, one could also argue that the Obidient movement was a genuine, organic wave of frustration from a youth tired of the status quo. Can Peter Obi be held entirely responsible for the actions of every single supporter online? That's a tough question. In the age of social media, controlling a massive decentralized movement is nearly impossible. But Soyinka's point is that leadership isn't just about policy, it's about setting the tone. A leader has a responsibility to guide their followers who towards a constructive dialogue, not to encourage to turn a blind eye to fascism and abuse. By his own account, Soyinka believes Peter Obi failed this crucial leadership test. Whether you agree with him or not, Soyinka has raised fundamental questions about the kinds of leadership Nigeria needs. It's not just about winning an election. It's about the ability to unite a diverse nation, to foster respectful debate, and to lead with integrity. His verdict is that Peter Obi, in his views, does not meet that standard. That's all the time we have for now on Oba's Trending Gist. What do you think about Professor Soyinka's statement? Is he right or is he being unfair to Peter Obi and his supporters? Drop your comments below, but let's keep it respectful and constructive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more trending gist. Until next time, stay informed.